Let me introduce myself first. Christian Michaud. I'm a Senior VP at Telecoms, responsible for voice and mobility services. But I'm here more in my responsibility as Vice Chairman of the I3 Forum to talk to you about industry collaboration. I think you've heard the name in the discussion here and some of the work that the I3 Forum is doing. And I thought it would be useful to take the opportunity to give you a larger picture on the I3 Forum and other activity as well that we're driving and how we're facilitating that collaboration in the industry. So basically, as a sort of a mission statement, we're really looking at industry transformation. We talk about the industry being static and how we move to the new ecosystem and changing the industry. And I think the I3 Forum has established itself as a facilitator of that change. Really focus on the carrier business, so the inter-carrier business. How do we interconnect? How do we collaborate? How do we work to create ecosystem, to launch various services, or develop services that exist, or even facilitate the existence of current services? And so in a few areas that we're looking at, it's how we can speed up that transformation and develop best practice recommendation. The I3 Forum has been historically very pragmatic about the changes in the industry. You have to understand we exist for about a bit more than 10 years. We were actually, the creation of the I3 Forum was announced in the first ITW in Washington about 11 years ago, I would say. And since then has grown substantially. And initially our first mandate in terms of what we delivered was focused on transformation of the TDM to IP environment. And that was our first topic. And I think very successfully helped the carriers to adopt best practice, technical recommendation, and so on to move to a more IP-centric environment. So we do this in a few ways. We look at bringing carriers and vendors, so it's really an ecosystem approach. Membership is quite open, and we basically invite all the participants in the carrier industry to join us. It's very pragmatic, as I said, tangible results. So it's the industry working together in work groups that really comes together and discuss a key topic and how do we actually deploy services or make the service existing better. We have 23 members. We had our first members in the Middle East joining us this year, STC. Also net numbers joined us recently. So we now have 24 members. And the way the I3 Forum works, it's funded by its membership. So the members pays a fee, which is used to manage our nonprofit organization. Some of the key activities that we're driving now, there's the technology work group, which is one of the oldest work groups in the I3 Forum. They've been looking at many technology topics, always from an angle of what the carriers need to do to set up what's coming. So 5G, for example, what does it mean for the carrier community? How do we do this? IoT, how do you manage IoT and IPX? Develop the IPX model to support an IoT interconnect and interoperability between the carrier. Roaming security, CLI definition, blockchain from a technical perspective, how do we look at that? And guidelines for IPX interconnection, standardization, the diameter, the deployment, and so on. And then there's 3 other work groups, which I'll take a bit more time, a few more minutes to dig in. The fraud work groups that Mark and Jussi talked about, and 2 initiatives, the market database and numbering plan initiative, and then a new project that we have related to blockchain. So first in the market database initiative, starting with voice, but not limited to voice, we're looking at how do we better define the market, sizing the market, getting information on the market, how do we evaluate how much traffic exists per route, by breakout, what's the quality parameter of those routes, what type of revenue can we see on those routes. So the I3 Forum has launched that initiative There used to be a service that exists, but has been launched 12 years ago and has limited capability in terms of providing data. So the I3 Forum took upon itself to invite some vendors and to develop a platform that will be managed by the I3 Forum to offer a service to the members and the non-members. It's really open to provide information on the market data. So basically, the carriers will provide their data. It will be anonymized, put in a platform, and the carriers will be able to see and benchmark globally, regionally, by route, by breakout, by countries, their capabilities in terms of how much market share they have for each of those, how much revenue is available on those, what's the quality parameter that are available on those. So many of the parameters that will be useful to manage your voice business. We're starting with voice, but obviously our objective is to go beyond voice, and mobility is probably the next target, and we'll go on to other services that are usage-based and needs that type of measurement. So where are we in that deployment of service? We've launched an RFI in January. We've received the answer 2 weeks ago. Yes, 2 weeks ago. And now we're in the process of coming up with a short list of vendors that we will engage in a more defined discussion. We should be hopefully announcing at ITW the winning vendors and the platform we will deploy. And our objective is to deploy a commercial platform in H2 where the carriers can come in and basically use the data that is available there and put their data in to get the information. So that's an initiative that is getting a lot of traction, a lot of interest by many carriers, not only in the forum, but many carriers outside the forum have asked me information about it. So it's going fairly well. If you have any interest, please don't hesitate to come and ask me. The other initiative that we started is the numbering plan initiative. So for our industry, numbering plan is one of the key identifier that we're using. There's MZ, there's IP addresses, but numbering plan is the universal that is used today for routing, pricing, costing, billing, and so on. Whether it's in voice, whether it's in messaging, and other services are using this. But one of the difficult aspects of numbering plan is that you get that for tons of sources. We get that from regulator, we get that from carriers, we get that from aggregator of that information. We have the GSME that has an initiative around numbering plan. So it's fairly complex to aggregate all of those data and put that in our database. And on top of that, we each do that individually in duplication. So to give you a good picture of what's happening today, you look at the graph on the left side, and you have an idea of the complexity it is today to get your numbering plan. And on top of that, many of us will look at the numbering plan and say, oh, that numbering plan means that, and my competitor will say, oh, the numbering plan means something else. We end up in dispute and fraud opportunity. So what the I3 Forum ultimately would like to do is to create a centralized database that will pull all of those data on behalf of the carriers, and the carrier will pull all that information from a central database and will be interpreted the same way for all of the industry, avoiding dispute and avoiding fraud opportunity, helping to resolve fraud. So this is another one that is getting a lot of traction. Our members are quite excited about it. We have a work group that already has done multiple meetings about it. We'll go in step, right? It's not going to be day one we come up with that database. First, we're exchanging information on best practice on this. We're giving recommendation to our members. Sure.
Thank you. Abdurrahim Aqid from Etisalat, UAE. The plan for the centralization of the numbering plan, when would be ready, and who will be able to access it? Is it for the vendors, or would be automatic also uploading all the system routing engines that will be dynamically will be uploaded, or only the operator will have the access?
No, it's not limited to the members of the I3 Forum, or IDs anyway. It will be open to all the carriers that need that information. We haven't come up with the commercial model that will support that, so yet to be determined. But as I said, that's going to take some time because it's a lot of work to put that type of infrastructure and the platform is not complex, but it's actually to make sure that we get all the inputs appropriately to the platform. That's the tough part to do.
And is it a free membership for this?
No, it's not limited to the membership of the IT firm.
Okay.
It's for members and non-members.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, just to, so that's, as I said, short term on this, it's not going to be the platform first, but more recommendation and best practice on how to implement, numbering plan, get a common view on the definition and so on. That's already going to be very helpful to the industry. So that's going to be the first step. Another project, and that has been mentioned previously, but just to go into it, the Fights Against Fraud work group has been one of the most active and still is one of our most active work group. They've been up and running for 6 years now and really helping the industry to reduce the fraud. They've been issuing recommendations for 6 years in terms of how to manage your business and avoid fraud, and what are the best practices in terms of payment retention, in terms of contract, and so on. And last year, the GLF launched this initiative of a code of conduct, which we thought was really great, and we fully supported the initiative. And a lot of the material that you see in the code of conduct, which is my next slide, the code of conduct is 6 areas where the carriers have committed to engage in a common approach around processes, contracting, reporting, and so on. And the I3 Forum is basically putting in place the structure and the KPIs to make sure the GLF, this code of conduct will be taken up by the community. There's already 28 signatories, and as was mentioned, we're working on a set of KPIs that will be, for the members, able to see how the industry is progressing in terms of controlling fraud, initially in voice, then going to mobility and to other product after. That brings me to our last initiative, which we just launched this year. I think you've heard in the GLF, there's an initiative to launch a blockchain for a number of use cases, including bandwidth on demand, voice settlement, fraud control, and everything. But going back to the I3 Forum and its mandate, the I3 Forum is really here to help the carriers to do a transition. So in that spirit, what the I3 Forum is going to be focusing on is, what does it mean blockchain, to adopt blockchain for any of those use cases for a carrier? How do you adopt that? What's the best practice? How do you maximize the benefit of blockchain if you were to use it? What are the prerequisite conditions that you should consider using blockchain in any of the use cases that will be presented? So that work group has just started last fall. They already had a few meetings and making some good progress. I think the first deliverables of that work group is going to be focused more on how do you look more informative in terms of what does it mean, how you should look at this, what are the use cases around there, and then we'll go in, after that we'll go more into the how and when you should implement those, and what does it mean for specifically for a carrier, and what are the costs around it, what are the business model around it, and how do you deploy this. So that's the work that we're doing. So with that, I think that that completes what I wanted to present to you today for the I3 Forum. If you have any question, if you're interested by the membership, don't hesitate to communicate with me or the I3 Forum website, and you'll have a lot of information, by the way, on the website on all of those things.
I think we actually have 3 questions
Perfect.
on the slider for you. So the first is, what does I stand for in the I3 name?
So international IP interconnect. So the international IP is the second, and interconnect is the I3. There's 3 I.
And the second is it a replacement to telegeography?
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's a replacement to telegeography. I think telegeography is doing their own study on market trends, and so on. This is really the data built up from the carriers for the carriers. So we have no intention to publish industry report on that data. It's only the people that contribute to the data that will have access to the data. So it's not a replacement to telegeography.
Finally, will carriers provide the accurate info for the RFI?
Oh, I'm not sure I understand that question. So on the RFI for the data market, I assume that's the question there. The RFI, as I said, was issued early in January. We've already received answers from all the invited vendors. And right now, we're finalizing our analysis of these answers. Very soon, we'll have a short list of probably 2 or 3 vendors where we'll engage in further discussion. So we're, if you want, almost past the RFI stage, now engaging into contractual discussion with 1 or 2, and ultimately one winner to go to the next stage.
We have one more question that's just come in. How does my company become a member?
As I said, there's on the website you have a link to become a member. There's a fee. It depends on there's a few criteria in terms of membership. So you go there. There'll be different level of fee. There's associate members. There's full members. There's board member, and so on. And the fees change. It's not very expensive. And you can write to us on the website, or write to to myself if you have my contact. If you don't, I can give it to you after. And we'll make sure that we send you the information to join the I3.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.